In this video, we're going to preview South Carolina UCLA, which is one of the better matchups in the 2024-25 season. In the video, we'll take a look at the matchups, which are fantastic, including the bench as well. The battle of the point guards should be interesting. Will UCLA go zone, and South Carolina, will they go zone potentially? Is it possible they might do that? As well, we'll look at how UCLA and South Carolina have performed against their top-rated opponents and what lineups were the best in those games. But before we start, if you enjoyed the content, then please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. All right, let's get into this. Now, I should note that I'm doing this audio before the Clemson game. Hopefully everybody from South Carolina comes out of the Clemson game healthy. What makes this matchup so intriguing is, for the first time, it seems like South Carolina is the underdog inside, as the UCLA front line is just as big and as talented as South Carolina, which does not ordinarily happen, especially as Cardoso has moved on to the WNBA. It now feels like UCLA has the cheat code at center with Lauren Betts and has the option of just dropping it off inside to their big and dumping for an easy basket. As the game is at UCLA at Pauley Pavilion, it seems like South Carolina is vulnerable and their win streak could finally be broken. Now, the matchups, like I said, are fantastic. So you have Betts for UCLA at center, and she'd be facing off either against Sanaya Fagan or Ash Watkins. You would think Watkins would be starting. Her minutes are building, and Dawn Staley would go out with her best lineup, but to be determined. Either way, those two are going to share time and do battle with Betts. Then at the 4, you would have Chloe Kitts versus Angelina Duglic. Then at the 3, I think it would be Gabrielle Jaquez versus Bree Hall. But on the other hand, Corey Close could decide to go big straight away and put Tamia Gardner in there and try to put Gabrielle Jaquez on Tahina Pau at guard. Or she could go Jaquez at the small forward spot and use London Jones at one guard spot and Alina Arnacello at the point guard spot. To be determined. You can just mix and match as well. Kiki Rice is now playing again. It appears she's recovering from her shoulder. I doubt she'll start, but she will obviously get minutes. But the real fascinating play, in my opinion, will be how South Carolina uses their bench and what players they use, because obviously they can go to full Wiley on the bench. Tessa Johnson, I believe she's on the mend from her ankle. We'll see how much time she gets against Clemson. In addition, they could match big for big on Betts. So either they could bring in Sakima Walker or Adele Tack just to use up their fouls. And I haven't even mentioned Joyce Edwards, who could match up quite nicely versus Tamia Gardner if they struggle with Bree Hall on Tamia Gardner. Potentially that would be a way they could go. As well, I didn't even mention UCLA has Jayana Barker on the bench, and she's good as well. So both of these front lines are stacked, and I just think during the game they'll mix and match. I think the more likely big or key matchup would be Alina Arnacello versus Raven Johnson. Arnacello has played well. As like Duglic, she is one of the international players that Corey Close has gotten. This is her first year, and she's getting minutes, obviously, because Kiki Rice has been out. In addition, Ledger Walker, there's no timetable for her return, presumably sometime in January. But she has played well. She's averaging 28 minutes, 12.5 points, 4.3 rebounds, 7.5 assists, and she can shoot, as her field goal percentage is 57% from the floor and 42% from three. The only hiccup with her right now is turnovers. She had 7 turnovers versus Louisville and averaging 3.8 per game. And that's the question. How will she hold up to Raven Johnson? Is obviously, I think that's what South Carolina is going to do, is really put a lot of pressure on her and see if they can get turnovers and get in their transition game and really work them that way. And it'd be interesting to see how much it would be helpful for UCLA if they could lean on Kiki Rice a little bit to take some of the pressure off her. Rice, I think, played 10 or 11 minutes versus Arkansas, so she is on the mend from that shoulder. But that's where I see this game won or lost, is actually in the backcourt. And South Carolina is only 4 games in, but so far, Raven Johnson has not played very well. She's averaging 3.3 points, 5.8 rebounds, 2.3 assists, 1.5 steals, and just under 1 turnover a game, but she's not shooting well. That's a real issue for her. So she's 17% from the floor and has not made a three-pointer this year. Again, it's a limited sample, but yeah, she just not it has not been good. 0 for 8 versus Michigan from the floor, 2 for 5 versus North Carolina State, 0 for 3 versus Coppin State, and then 3 for 12 versus ECU. And one thing is clear to me, if South Carolina struggles to shoot the ball like they did against Michigan, like they shot 33% from the floor and only 19% from the three-point line, they are not going to win this game because UCLA can match up in the paint with them, so they need their guards to play well. And I guess I say that and say that if UCLA shoots just as bad as South Carolina, if they both have bad shooting nights, well, then it's a wash. And I think that's one of the reasons that Alina Arnacello is so important to UCLA, as she might offer them the most consistent outside shot. Like I know London Jones can shoot as well, but she can be shut down due to her size if a team really wants to take her game away. And then Kiki Rice, she's around that 30% mark, but never really consistent three-point shooter. And that is crucial. If you're going to have Lauren Betts, you need outside shooting. I think that's their best bet, to have consistent outside shooting, because Ledger Walker isn't really a pure shooter either. She gets to the paint and penetrates and is a playmaker. But yeah, I think Arnacello, she will be very, very important to give them that shooting threat. Now, I said I was going to mention their best lineups versus ranked opponents. So South Carolina versus NC State. So that's when they obviously had Watkins back. Their best lineup in terms of points per possession, their net, was Tahina Paopao, Raven Johnson, Full Wiley, Watkins, and Joyce Edwards. Like that was plus 1.13 over 3 minutes. And it seems like Watkins is the magic elixir, because another lineup that did well was Tahina Paopao, Raven Johnson, Tessa Johnson, Ashlyn Watkins, and Sakima Walker. Now, that was only for like a minute 31, so small sample, but that was plus 1.37. So both of those lineups, again, Watkins seems to be the key as well. A bit of Full Wiley with Raven Johnson and Paopao. That is not bad. Now, UCLA's best lineup versus Louisville in their first game. Yeah, it was the first game. So it was London Jones, Alina Arnacello, Jaquez, and Gardner. Gardner went off her nut on that game, and Lauren Betts. That lineup played in the first quarter for 4 minutes and 53 seconds and was plus 93. That was one of their better lineups. The other one that was really effective only for a minute 25, but they went super big. So they went Arnacello again with Jaquez and Gardner, Barker, and Lauren Betts, and that was plus 1.27. So they went super big, and that's what they might do versus South Carolina. I could see that during the stage, them going to a zone as well with their three bigs and seeing if South Carolina can hit shots. And South Carolina very well could have hit shots if Full Wiley and Tahina Paopao go off, and then that would quickly get them out of the zone. Much the same way, I could see South Carolina going zone just to try to frustrate Betts, or whoever's guarding Jaquez to try to sag and play in front of Lauren Betts potentially. You can see they're just going to try to give her different looks and make life hard on her. Now, I could see this game going either way, and you could pick it. I could see South Carolina getting on top of them with pressure and getting turnovers and transition game, and really having their A game on the other side. If they don't hit shots, then I could see UCLA winning the game. Home crowd all fired up, and a big, massive win for UCLA. If forced into a corner and made to make a pick, I would go South Carolina. I'm more inclined to say South Carolina is going to come out with their A game and really put on a show. But I'm definitely not putting down the college fund on this game, because to be determined. I could see either team winning, like I say. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the game. Your comments, your thoughts, let me know what you feel I've gotten right or wrong, or if any parts or key points of the game I've missed. Happy for all your comments and your poison. Have a good night.